definitely God speaking. We have a little issue, though. I forgot to ask you to put one thing out there away for a minute, and that's expectations. God's always speaking, life is always speaking to us, but you and I have these expectations that we're going to hear God speaking as a certain thing. But if you could feel the song, the words, the poetic energy of Susan's reading, it's not the things we get, it's what we feel. That's how we commune with God. That's the way we know God is speaking to us. Now, commune means to share an intimate relationship. Yesterday morning, I was doing my work and my study in the morning, which I love to do, and I took a break. And I walked outside, and let me know if you've done this. I walked outside just on the patio, and the colors were so bright. And the temperature was it was perfect. It wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold. It was just right. It was light, it was warm, it was colorful, it was beautiful. And I couldn't have had a better conversation communing with God in that moment. Unexpected, beautiful, and I'm still carrying it with me. It's a feeling that comes. We don't know when we're going to have that special time, that special relationship. But if my mind had been too full, if I hadn't been open and available, I would have missed it completely. We have our work to do because that energy, that light, that warmth, that beauty, even if it's not outside, it's inside all the time. We have to make the commitment that we're going to do our work to prepare ourselves to receive the gifts of Spirit that are being given continually every minute of every day. Khalil Gibran said there's a deep desire in every person that pulls them from the seen to the unseen, to philosophy, to the divine. And that's what we want. We want to keep that relationship going all the time. We could call it to pray without ceasing, because prayer is the way we commune with God. But we want to make that a continual practice, and it takes work for us to do that. It's not an easy job, because if you and I are going to do the work, we have to really take accountability for ourselves and our responsibility. It was Hafez who said, well, I don't have it here. I have it on another paper. But he said, you can be pointing the finger all you want. You can be blaming everybody else for all that you could do. You can be looking outside for all your solutions when the only person you can work on is yourself from within. And that's the truth. That's the work we have to do. So if we look at some of the mystics that we've studied, the beautiful beings on the wall and the mystics that we quote all the time, their life wasn't easy. Because I'm going to tell you something, and I'm sure you already know it. Life is difficult, period. Agreed? Yeah, it's difficult. Because being difficult doesn't mean it's wrong, because what the caterpillar calls death, the master calls a butterfly. What the caterpillar calls the end of life, the master calls transformation. Life needs to be difficult for us to break open. Sometimes we need that bonk on the head to completely break apart so we can have a new perspective on life. So today we're going to take a journey, because this awakening is a spiritual journey. And once we get on a spiritual path, I don't care how hard you try, we can't get off. We may stumble, we may fall, but we get right back on the path because we know where it's going. It's going to a much better experience of life. I want to talk to you this morning about this spiritual journey and Saint Teresa of Avila. She was a 16th century Catholic saint and a Spanish mystic. And she was a noble woman in Spain, but she had a deep call to go and live the convent life. Even though she was very beautiful, very high-spirited, she was humorous, known for her unbelievable humor and wit. But she had this deep calling. That's what Khalil Gibran was talking about, that deep call. She had that. She was one of 13 children, her father's favorite, but she was a little bit of a troublemaker now and then. The first time she went to the convent wasn't her choice, but the rest of the times at 21 were. But she had a near-death experience after her first visit in the convent and went home, and that can give you a special relationship to spirit, for sure. In her seminal work called Interior Castles, she had a vision of a diamond in the shape of a castle, and it was about spiritual development and had 7 different mansions, rooms you needed to go to arrive at the 7th mansion, which was the union with God. And she had an astonishing relationship with God. She felt she was in a spiritual marriage with God. She just felt so close to that energy and essence, and it's beautiful, beautiful. But her life did have hardship and trouble in it, as so many of ours do. But we want to take that journey this morning, and all of us are at different levels of the spiritual awakening. We go one place, we go somewhere else. It's not just you climb up the stairs and you're there. It's about a continual process of self-knowledge, self-awareness, knowing what we're doing. St. Paul said that invisible spirit that we're always connected to, always unconsciously connected to, and now we want to be consciously connected to it. St. Paul said the invisible must be understood by the invisible. The invisible must be understood by the visible. And it's hard for our mind to understand something we can't see. But that's the work, the spiritual journey, to be in that absolute communion with Spirit, is if we can be on that journey to put our minds aside. Let our soul, which is our higher self, let our soul have the forefront in our lives. Our mind isn't strong enough to take the journey through all the 7 mansions. It's that feeling that we have, that feeling where we heard in that song, when we feel small in our physical being, there's part of us knows we're so much greater than we imagine ourselves to be. There's so much more in us, but we have to have that connection, commune with that greater power of good. So here we are. Now this is what Hafez says also. I wish I could show you when you are lonely or in the darkness. I wish I could show you the astonishing light of your being. The astonishing light of your being. As Susan mentioned so beautifully, when we get in those lower vibrational thoughts, they keep us stuck. We have an outer self, which we judge by this outer world of physical conditions, or the inner self. And the outer self can get so filled with sorrow and regret and guilt and shame that we have the tears that keep us from having that spiritual vision that knows the higher truth. Or we can hold so much fear and doubt in our heart that it gets weighted down and we can't be lifted by the messages that are eternally, infinitely coming to us, that life is good all the time. So we have to start becoming conscious and owning our stuff. When we see our fears getting away, our negativity getting in the way, we need to put them aside and go back on that journey. How do we do that? What's the remedy when we have the problems that are there? How do we get back on track? Number 1, silence is the oxygen for the soul. Silence is what the soul needs in order to get back on track. I talk about letting my mind melt on my heart. We don't want to throw the mind away. It's a great tool, but we have to give our heart, our soul, the authority to take charge. So in that silence, we can let our spiritual eyes see that there's something greater going on. Invisible we can't see, but there's something greater at work. We can let our inner ear Hear the voices of truth, that life is good all the time, that we are never separated from the whole, that we are whole and complete right now. We can hear those voices, that call telling us there's something more right here in this moment. There's something more going on. And of course, the spiritual eye, the inner ear, and the open mind. The open mind to know there's something more. We have to take that lid off to climb up to the next room in that castle. The next room will lead us where we want to go. And if we get to that place, it was Jesus who said, speaking as the Logos, I am the vine, you are the branches. There is only one. I am the vine, and you are the branches. And then, when we get this communication going on, it's the fruit, our actions, that are the actions of Spirit. Now, as we were if we are connected with the wholeness of God, of goodness, of love, of possibility, we are connected with a creative essence that allows us to do amazing things. Things that seem impossible become possible if we take time in silence and to commune. But the thing I forgot to say is, in the silence, it is the key to the castle, the bridge to that castle of that spiritual journey is prayer. Prayer, and that's the way we speak to God. Of course, on the lower levels, in the lower mansions, you're going to speak differently to Spirit than you do, because when you get way up there, you know there's no difference. We commingle. Our thought commingles with Spirit, so there is no difference. But we're on the lower level, we can be looking at a God up there, a Spirit up there, and we can be, why did you do this to me? What's going on here? We can be wailing in despair, thinking there's a separation, where Spirit's just saying, this is opportunity. You're strong. I know you can do it, but we can, until we open ourselves to a greater understanding that there's a oneness at work here. There is no separation, where we can consciously understand the unification we have with God, that oneness right here and right now. So we're going to take the journey. Now I want you to remember that walk I told you about just a few minutes ago? I'm going to ask you if you go on that walk with me too. But the walk isn't anywhere outside. It's a walk in here. We have to have the courage to put aside the expectations we have. We have to have the courage to let go of, I'm not enough. There isn't enough. This is wrong. This is bad. We have to shut the eyes to all the conflict we see in the outer world. And we have to have the courage to walk hand in hand with Spirit. That prayer becomes something we just are. We are communing with Spirit all the time. We're in that place where we can just move from here to there without any separation. We just always keep that connection with us. And when we walk in that place with that connection to Spirit, here's how we feel, and these are the words from Hafez. He said, I'm happy even though I don't have a reason. I'm happy. I'm full of light even before the sky has the opportunity to meet the sun or the moon. I'm happy. I'm light even before any of that. Dear companions, we have been in love with God for a very, very, very long time. We have been in love with God for a very, very long time. And that's when we feel that spiritual marriage that St. Teresa was talking about. We find out that communing with God is not words. It's not words. It's feeling of warmth and comfort. It's just what I explained when I went outside. It's vibrant, it's alive, it's passionate. My dear Rumi and Hafez, the Sufi mystics, they said that communion with God was a dance. Ernest Holmes said, when you are really connected, communing with God, the angels of your better self are singing. It's much more than just talking to God. It's about an experience of God. It was Hafez who said, for the beloved has at last opened my arms. The beloved has at last opened my arms and invited my heart to eternally dance. Eternally dance. He went on to say that God only knows 4 words: come and dance with me. I will always lean my heart as close as I can into your soul. Right there. As close as I can. Right there. Come dance with me. Be with me. And of course, as Mother Teresa said, I am a pencil in the hand of God. I'm being used by Spirit. Rumi said, my hands are your hands. Are we there where we can be that representation of Spirit? I'm going to invite you right now as you just close your eyes, and let's take that journey inward. That walk where we feel vibrantly alive with the warmth, the color, the light of Spirit ignited within us right here and right now. Just welcoming and opening ourselves up to be totally available, to be at one with Spirit. Open and available to that unlimited creative potential that resides within us and around us right now and always. It is that knowing when we open to that vibrancy of Spirit that we know we are one, not just with God, with Spirit. We know we are one with all life. We feel that connection as we sit alone in our quiet contemplation or we're out in the world. We feel that oneness that's connecting us all as we step into a greater perspective of life to see that there's so much more, something so much greater at work, bringing us into that unified wholeness of awareness right here and right now. And if we don't know how to get there on our own, we simply open our hearts to feel the love of Spirit as it works through us and as us. We feel its embrace and know right where we are feeling the love, the light, the goodness of Spirit. That is our gift of right here and right now. So as we see that and know that, I simply invite you to just take your breath and come back here. And I invite you today to leave all the stuff I asked you to put aside, to leave that here to be transmuted by all the goodness that's already available, and to leave today with an attitude of gratitude. That's the prayer of thanksgiving. An attitude of love, which is also a prayer of knowing and oneness, and to leave available to all the good that is already yours. Thank you for being here. Thank you, live streamers, for being here. I know it is together we make this world a better, more beautiful, more loving, and more vibrant place. And so it is. Thank you.